So you know that feeling. You're really high performing, leading with purpose, getting things done. But maybe those really big creative ideas, the game changers, they feel like they're always just simmering on the back burner.
Just out of reach.
Exactly. Well, today we're doing a deep dive into a really insightful article by Helena DeMonk. She's a transformation catalyst focusing on purposeful women leaders. And her article looks at these hidden ways high achievers, particularly women, might actually be, well, unintentionally blocking their own creative power.
Yeah, and what I find so interesting about her work, Helena de Moyne's perspective, is that it goes way beyond the usual time management hacks. It's not suggesting you just cram more in.
Yeah.
It's about finding these subtle energy leaks that stop truly innovative leadership from really emerging.
Right. So our mission today is to unpack those hidden drains. We want to understand what's going on underneath and, crucially, figure out how you can reclaim that creative energy for, bigger impact. We're aiming for real strategies here, not just surface level tips. Okay, so let's dive in. The first big leak DeMonk talks about is the overfunctioning trap.
Ah, yes, the overfunctioning trap. We see this a lot with high performers, and she describes it perfectly. It's that tendency, that equation where leadership equals doing everything yourself. Redoing subordinates work, micromanaging, feeling like you have to have your hands in every single detail.
That feeling of, if I want it done right?
Exactly, that's the one. High achievers can easily mistake being constantly busy for actually being impactful. They end up trading those potential creative leaps for just, well, endless task completion.
And DeMonk points out in the article, this isn't just about being dedicated, is it? There can be societal conditioning involved, too.
For sure. There can be this underlying pressure, sometimes subtle, sometimes not, that suggests a woman's value is directly tied to how much she visibly produces, how much labor she puts in.
And this is where the neuroscience comes in, which I found fascinating. How does this overfunctioning actually stifle creativity on a brain level?
Right, so this is really key. Being stuck in that constant execution mode tends to quiet down what's called the default mode network, the DMN, in your brain. You can think of the DMN as like your brain's background insight generator. It's where those unexpected connections, those aha moments happen. It's vital for innovation.
So if you're always focused on the next task,
Then that creative network doesn't get the space, the downtime it needs to work its magic. Constant execution basically silences it.
wow. So all that hard work, that drive, could actually be blocking the very thinking needed for the biggest breakthroughs. Okay, so Helena DeMonk offers a strategy, the Energy ROI Audit. What does that involve?
Yeah. So the Energy ROI Audit, as she lays it out, is essentially about a week of really honest self-tracking. You note down all your tasks, but critically, you also track how much energy each one takes. Not just time, but the drain or gain.
Ah, okay, so it's about the energy costs, not just the minutes spent.
Precisely. You want to pinpoint the activities that leave you feeling depleted versus those that energize you or, really move the needle on important outcomes. And the surprising thing is, often the tasks that feel most urgent are actually the biggest drains on your future creative impact.
Right, and once you have that data, that awareness, you apply the 80-20 rule.
Exactly that. DeMink suggests identifying that vital 20% of activities that generate, say, 80% of your team's growth or your own sense of creative fulfillment. Once you know what those high-impact activities are, the next step, and this is crucial, is to really strategically delegate or even automate the rest.
She gives a great example, Mary Barra at General Motors, the former CEO, and her 70% delegation rule. I found that really powerful.
It is powerful. The idea is if someone else on your team can do a task even 70% as well as you could, you should delegate it.
That slight shift, maybe accepting something that isn't exactly how you do it, frees up so much strategic capacity for you.
It's a fundamental mindset shift. Recognizing your highest value isn't in the execution of everything, but in those unique strategic and creative insights only you can bring. And to make space for that, DeMonk is really strong on protecting dedicated creative blocks, like 90-minute blocks.
And treating them seriously.
Absolutely. She says treat them like board meetings. They're non-negotiable appointments for that deep, innovative thinking to actually happen.
Makes perfect sense. You wouldn't just blow off a board meeting. Okay, let's move to the second energy leak Helena DeMonk identifies, the approval addiction. This one feels like it hits close to home for many leaders.
Oh, definitely. DeMonk really nails it with this term, approval addiction. It's that often subconscious drive to prioritize being liked, seeking consensus on everything. And sometimes that comes at the expense of pushing for the really bold, potentially disruptive ideas.
How does that show up? Like saying yes to things you shouldn't.
Yeah, exactly. Saying yes to low-impact requests just to be agreeable, maybe watering down your proposals so they don't ruffle any feathers, spending excessive energy trying to get absolutely everyone on board before moving forward.
It's like you're trying so hard to keep the peace that you might actually be diluting your own impact. And there's research backing this up, right? It's not just a feeling.
No, it's not just a feeling. She points to a 2022 Stanford study which found that women leaders tend to spend significantly more time, I think it was around 37% more, on what this study called team harmony tasks compared to male peers.
Wow, 37%.
Yeah, and the study directly linked that extra time spent on managing harmony to a noticeable decrease in innovation output. That energy going towards universal approval isn't going towards creative solutions.
That's a stark trade-off. So what's the way out? DeMine talks about creating a non-negotiables filter.
This is really valuable exercise. It involves some deeper reflection, maybe journaling, thinking about the creative legacy you actually want to leave, and getting honest about, well, what risks are you avoiding just to stay comfortable or liked?
Okay, so understanding your core mission and your fears.
Exactly. And once you have that clarity, you can build a kind of decision matrix. When a request or opportunity comes in, you run it through this filter.
Does it align with my core goals? Does it serve my bigger vision? Or is it just, a distraction driven by wanting to please?
Precisely. And a big part of this, DeMine stresses, is getting good at setting boundaries. Having some phrases ready.
Polite ways to say no.
Right. Polite but firm. She gives an example like, I really admire your initiative on this. It falls outside my key focus areas right now, but perhaps I can connect you with someone better suited.
So you're still being helpful, collaborative, but you're protecting your own essential bandwidth.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's remembering that saying no to the less important stuff is what creates the space for those really big, impactful yeses.
That's a great reframe. Okay, third energy leak from Helena DeMink's work. Perfectionism's opportunity tax. I suspect many listeners will recognize this one.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Perfectionism, it's such a double-edged sword, isn't it?
Yeah.
DeMink describes this tax as the cost of waiting for everything to be absolutely perfect before you share an idea, before you launch something. It's the endless tweaking, the constant revising, delaying action because it's not quite flawless yet.
We've all felt that, right? Just one more polish. But she argues it's often fear wearing a disguise of diligence. And it costs us momentum and creative energy.
It really does. She mentions Carol Dweck's research showing perfectionism can actually make us less cognitively flexible, maybe by as much as 22%.
Wow. How so?
Well, if you're hyper-focused on avoiding any mistake, you become less open to experimenting, less willing to learn from feedback, less likely to take those little detours that often spark the best innovations. You get kind of stuck.
So perfectionism can actually keep you playing small, in a way. How do we combat this? DeMonk introduces the 70% rule. Sounds practical.
It is. It's apparently quite common in places like Silicon Valley. The basic idea is share your ideas or initiatives when they're about 70% baked, when they have good momentum, rather than waiting for 100% polish.
Get it out there sooner.
Right. It lets you get crucial feedback earlier, allows for collaborative building, and stops you wasting time perfecting details that might need to change anyway based on that feedback.
She also mentions Netflix and their rough draft roundtables. I like that image.
Yeah, bringing even early-stage concepts to the group for refinement. It shifts the focus from solitary perfection to, collective evolution. It builds a culture of iteration.
So the advice is maybe try a beta brainstorm for your next thing. Just get the initial thoughts out there.
Exactly. DeMoink encourages that. The real measure of progress isn't hitting some imaginary perfect standard. It's the momentum you build through those cycles of feedback and iteration.
Okay, so bringing this all together, DeMink outlines a sort of creative capital reclamation protocol. What are some key actionable steps listeners could start with?
Okay, first, she really encourages quantifying the leaks. She suggests tracking your time for maybe 2 weeks, but specifically note the difference between reactive time emails, routine meetings, versus dedicated creative strategy time like ideation, mentoring, long-term planning.
And the goal?
The initial target she suggests is aiming for something like a 60-40 split, 60% reactive, 40% creative. Just getting that baseline awareness is huge.
That's a concrete goal. What else? What practical things can help claw back that energy?
Automating the gatekeepers is another big one she mentions. Using tools. Maybe ChatGPT for drafting standard emails.
Yeah.
Calendly to filter meeting requests. Maybe even looking into a virtual assistant for those admin tasks that constantly nibble away at your focus.
Smart. Offload the necessary but creatively draining stuff.
Yeah.
And the last piece.
Intentional refueling. This isn't just taking a break. It's actively feeding your brain's creative capacity.
How so?
She talks about incorporating artist dates, maybe 45-minute blocks, for things that genuinely spark your curiosity or creativity. Visiting a gallery, free writing, playing with new technology, whatever works for you.
And the key is seeing these not as luxuries.
Exactly. Not optional indulgences. DeMike frames them, and neuroscience supports this, as essential recovery periods. They're non-negotiable for maintaining high-level creative output.
So the big takeaway from Helena Disink's article seems crystal clear. Your creativity isn't just a nice to have, it's absolutely fundamental to transformative leadership.
It truly is. But
Right.
as she points out, changing these patterns, the overfunctioning, the approval-seeking, the perfectionism, it takes conscious effort. It requires a really strategic approach to managing your energy.
It means questioning those ingrained habits, maybe some societal messages, and actively prioritizing your creative thinking.
And building systems around you that actually protect that priority. It's realizing that your biggest contributions often come not from just doing more, but from thinking more deeply, more innovatively.
Right. And maybe that leads us to a final thought for you, the listener, to mull over. What amazing idea, what truly groundbreaking solution might actually surface if you consciously decided to reclaim even just a little bit of that creative capital you might be letting leak away right now. It's quite an exciting prospect to consider.
Definitely. And if you are interested in going deeper with this, Helena DeMonk does offer more resources. You can look into her discovery calls, her newsletter, The Weekly Power Talks, or her space community for women executives. These could be great next steps for anyone wanting to continue this journey of really reclaiming their creative power.